Hear the latest on the Bahamar talks.
Okay, is signing a historic contract today. We have the details straight ahead. And our cameras rolling as authorities brought in millions of dollars worth of drugs seized yesterday. The Bahamas tonight. The national report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
Government meeting with credit rating agencies as the country's economic outlook and position stands in the balance following the Bahamar ordeal. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson.
And good evening, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Munnings. Prime Minister of the Right Honorable Perry Christie, who is also the Minister of Finance, and the State Minister for Finance, the Honorable Michael Halkitis, leaving Parliament early this morning to meet with credit rating agencies over what the country's economic projection might be, with Bahamar declaring Chapter 11 bankruptcy and still not yet opening. In fact, with no results in from those talks in China, more questions are surfacing tonight on the impact of this issue. Well, our Clint Watson has been following this developing story for several days now, and he spoke exclusively with the State Minister of Finance today following that critical meeting this morning. Clint, what can you tell us?
Well, Altaviz, I guess we can begin by saying, first of all, there is some good news tonight regarding that meeting this morning with the credit agencies and the government. But there's still a dark cloud of concern looming over those talks in China as the team touches down in the capital this morning. But of course, the ball got rolling this morning with that meeting.
So there is no immediate threat of any downgrade. I think what they are looking for is how that situation resolves itself. And the impact on the tourism economy and on our economy as a whole.
And this position by international credit rating agencies is something government has worked to secure as it anticipates a speedy resolution to the Bahamar dilemma. State Minister for Finance Michael Halkitis says he and Prime Minister Christie gave certain assurances to the agencies as they met Wednesday morning for introductory meetings.
We were able to show them that notwithstanding the difficulties of that very important development, there are other developments going on which will create some employment and contribute to the economy. But having said all of that, it's in our interest to make sure that we try and resolve the situation as soon as possible. We were able to brief them a bit on the developments at Bahamar, which they, as you know, had flagged in their credit assessment that they released about a week ago. And so we were able to give them a bit of an update on that.
Minister Halkitis maintains some level of optimism that the country won't receive a further downgrade, but again admits that the country's upcoming rating will be hinged on the outcome of the Bahamar talks and the resort's subsequent opening.
In their assessment, they said that what they were looking at was a speedy resolution, and they were concerned that the developments at Bahamar, if they were not resolved, could lead to a drag on the economy. And so there is no immediate threat of any downgrade. I think what they are looking for is how that situation resolves itself and the impact on the tourism economy and on our economy as a whole.
Minister Halkitis says the government fiscal reform plan to reduce the deficit, introduce VAT, and put the country on a more stable footing has worked, and so he is confident these factors will play a positive role in the country's projection. And with the weight heavy in the balance on tourism, Minister Obi Wilchcombe is confident that his figures will hold steady without the impact of Bahamar rooms. He says the country's reputation has not been negatively impacted, but there are issues with the developer's reputation. He confirmed that the brands Hyatt, Rosewood, and SLS are still holding strong.
They're still flying their flags at this moment, and we are still optimistic. But I know that the negotiations are continuing. We're waiting for a report, but we are hoping that the brands will remain. Obviously, the long delay has caused some concern for everyone, inclusive of the brands. But at the same time, they have not lost faith, and they have a view that once the property is operational, it's going to be one of the most successful in the entire Caribbean. So we're very optimistic about it.
As for the government and Bahamar's partnership for marketing the resort, Minister Wilchcombe says that's on hold.
We agreed to $20 million, up to $14 million was spent so far. and we were holding and waiting. But we are prepared tomorrow to begin our marketing. Of course, we're continuing to monitor all that's said about the Bahamas, all that's said about Bahamar, wherever it's being said. And we are continuing to move toward increasing our airlift. In fact, we have many of the airlines on standby, aware of the fact that once we get word, we can begin the marketing.
Now, cause all the attention is, of course, on that meeting in China, and mum's still the word with regards to those talks in China. The team is expected back in the morning. Minister Alcides did not comment on how those meetings went and did not want to address rumors that the talks failed. However, he said there may be an update or an address from Prime Minister Christie to the nation following the team's arrival tomorrow. Live in the newsroom, I'm Clint Watson.
An historic agreement signed today that could benefit educators. All parties involved are calling the accord a good one. Here's Fern Carey.
The historic signing of the first industrial agreement between the Bahamas Education Managerial Union and the government concludes what both sides described as a short and amicable negotiation process. Formed some 4 years ago, the new union's membership includes more than 400 education managers, supervisors, and technical staff at the Ministry of Education. Labour Minister Shane Gibson noted that the new industrial agreement underscores the high premium the government places on educators in the country.
We look forward to the next couple of years in trying to live not only by the letter of this agreement, but more by the spirit. Because obviously you cannot put everything inside an industrial agreement. But I think once everybody appreciates the spirit and the intent of what we are trying to accomplish, even those things that are not spelled out in the agreement, we understand that there's a process in dealing with it.
Now, this contract includes better salaries, benefits, and other incentives for these managers.
Highlights of the industrial agreement include, but are not limited to, professional development, sabbatical leave, responsibility allowance, and the introduction of a one-time payment for geographical posting for officers setting up a second home, as well as the introduction of a disturbance allowance for persons posted away from the island in which they are domiciled in excess of 3 months.
Union President Charles Walgoose indicated that the agreement allows for greater collaboration between the government and the union.
The parties agreed to work together to promote quality education in the public education system. Clause 1.8 reads, both parties agree that effective communication is critical for educational managers to achieve organizational success. That's also very important. And finally, the employer agrees to recognize officers, representatives, and union committees as bona fide representatives of the union.
Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Well, still on union news, the Bahamas Telecommunications Company and the Bahamas Communications and Public Managers Union agreeing to a new 3-year industrial contract which takes immediate effect. In a statement, BTC's executive management says the terms of the agreement, which go back to April 1st, 2014, will allow BTC to adjust its operations to meet customer requirements for competition. It further noted that the signing of the new agreement now allows employees identified to exit the business access to the original voluntary separation package offer extended this March. The original offer includes the additional benefits of a more attractive salary incentive, medical coverage and training awards, and the ability to freeze pension funds, which can be collected once they become available. Now, BTC employees in areas identified for outsourcing will also now be offered fixed-term contracts during a period of transition.
This portion of the news is brought to you by the new Shell and Letty, designed for extra miles.